Dr. Neil Paterson studied and worked with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi for more than 30 years. He received his doctorate degree in the science of creative intelligence from Maharishi European Research University, Seelisberg, Switzerland, in 1983, and a doctorate degree in Maharishi Vedic Science from Maharishi Vedic University, the Netherlands, in 1993. Dr. Paterson is currently Secretary General of the Brahmanand Saraswati Foundation, an international foundation established by Maharishi Ji, whose mission is to establish and permanently fund large groups of Maharishi Vedic Pandits in India to create world peace through daily performance of the Vedic technologies of Yoga and Yagya. Dr. Paterson also serves as Global Minister of Administration of the global country of world peace, with responsibility for implementing Vedic administration throughout the world. I would now like to welcome Dr. Neil Paterson as he addresses us on the topic, Vedic Administration, Restoring the Role of Vedic Pandits in Creating Invincible India and World Peace. Dr. Neil Paterson.
Jai Gurudev. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Revered Shankaracharya Ji, Maharaja Ji, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My talk this afternoon is on how the Vedic Pandits of India can re-establish Vedic administration or Vedic Vishwa Prashasan to create problem-free life for everyone in India, invincibility for the nation, and permanent peace in the family of nations. Throughout this conference, our distinguished spiritual leaders of India and scientists have beautifully presented to us that the answers to all the problems of our world are available in the Veda. And all that is required is for people to follow the Vedic teachings and live according to Dharma. But the problem is, despite all efforts of our great teachers of Ved, most of the population of India and the world have not taken up Vedic practices in their life, and they do not live according to the Vedic teachings. The result is problems and suffering continue in the life of the people. Maharshi himself was faced with this challenge. And Maharshi said the reason is that all of life is governed by natural law. And when people have not been educated how to enliven total natural law, the Ved, in their awareness, they violate natural law in their thinking, speech, and action. And the violation of natural law by the whole population, Maharshi explained, creates an imbalance in nature, which results in a buildup of stress and tension in the whole atmosphere of the world. And he further said that it is under this influence of stress in world consciousness that causes people to engage in unhealthy and destructive behavior, leading ultimately to conflicts and wars. In the Vedic language, this means that rajasic and tamasic tendencies predominate in society, and people's behavior is not sattvic, and therefore they do not engage in Vedic practices, nor do they live according to Dharma. Now, the only solution, Maharshi said, is we have to create a powerful influence of sattva in the whole world's atmosphere that will purify world consciousness and restore balance in nature. And this, he said, will subdue the rajasic and tamasic tendencies of the population. And he said there is only one way to accomplish this, That is by having very large groups of thousands and tens of thousands of Vedic Pandits, like we see pictured here, perform yoga and yajna daily throughout India. This and this alone, Maharshi stated, will produce a powerful enough influence of sattva to purify the Indian national consciousness and the whole world consciousness. And he said, as a result of this influence of sattva generated by the Pandits through yoga and yajna, automatically the whole population will begin to think and act more in accord with natural law, according to Ved. And automatically they will not engage in unhealthy and destructive behavior that causes harm to themselves and others. This, Maharshi said, is the only way to arrest the negative and destructive tendencies of the people, no matter who they are, where they are. And in that way, the only solution to create Vedic India and Vedic civilization on earth. Maharshi called this performance of yoga and yajna by the Vedic Pandits as Vedic Vishwa Prashasan, or Vedic Administration, which is administration of life on earth through the Ved, through natural law. Today, governments administer society through man-made law, but as history has shown, they have not been able to maintain peace, progress, and prosperity for everyone through man-made laws. And Maharshi often stated that there is only one perfect government, and that is the government of the universe, which promotes the growth and progress of everything in creation in perfect harmony and unity. Therefore, for governments to fulfill their responsibility to the nation, he said they must take recourse to natural law, nature's government, which administers the infinite diversity of the ever-expanding universe with perfect order and without a problem. And as Maharshi states here, Ved is the constitution of nature's government, and it contains all knowledge and practical procedures to harness the power of natural law to maintain peace, harmony, and prosperity in society. And as we've heard from Maharaj, Dr. Nader, and Dr. Hegelen, modern science has discovered that nature's government administers the universe from the unified field of natural law, and that all knowledge about this most powerful level of natural law and how to access it is contained in the Ved and Vedic literature. Therefore, to implement Vedic administration, it requires accessing the unified field of natural law and enlivening it in the consciousness of the whole nation. And the result will be that the whole population will automatically act in accord with natural law and not create problems for themselves or others. In a moment, we'll review how it is the Vedic Pandits can achieve this, and also review Maharshi's master plan to implement it throughout India. But it's interesting to note that when we look to the Vedic literature, we find that it was the traditional role of the Vedic Pandits in ancient India to apply these Vedic procedures to create problem-free, orderly administration of society. And the Vedic texts are full of references to the ancient rishis and pandits performing yajna for the welfare of the people. And furthermore, it was the responsibility of the rulers, the rajas of ancient India, to maintain Vedic Pandits in this profession. For example, after the Mahabharata war, in this quote we see from Mahabharata, Yudhishthir was said to have maintained 8,000 Brahmins and 10,000 yatis or sannyasis in his palace. And of course, we know the only record of a perfect government on earth was in the reign of Sri Ram in Ayodhya, who was the embodiment of total natural law and who established heaven on earth, in whose reign suffering belonged to no one. It is very unfortunate for the whole humanity that throughout time, with the foreign invasions of India, this theme of administration was lost by the government. The result has been problems and suffering everywhere in India and around the world. But now in this scientific age, Maharshi came to revive the practical means from the Vedas for restoring Vedic Vishwa Prashasan. It should be emphasized that Vedic administration does not replace or interfere with the administration of the nation through national law. It also does not require that any new laws have to be enacted. But Vedic administration is quietly implemented by the Vedic Pandits, independent of government administration. But it will bring the support of nature's government to fulfill all the noble efforts of the government to achieve problem-free administration. And its effects will be universal for all, not just for Hindus, but it will benefit the lives of all in the nation, irrespective of their religion, culture, or even respective whether they believe in the Ved. In this book, Constitution of India Fulfilled Through Maharshi's Transcendental Meditation, scientific research demonstrates how every article of the Indian Constitution can be fulfilled through the practice of yoga and yajna by the Vedic Pandits. And it will uphold and fulfill the rights of all citizens and create the conditions for everyone in the nation to prosper. So how is it that the Vedic Pandits create this influence of peace? We heard from Maharaja and Dr. Hagelin earlier that scientific research has revealed that Ved is natural law and is located in the Atma, or self, or consciousness of everyone. And here Maharshi explained, Ved is swara, the reverberations of Atma, the self. Swa is Atma, self, and Ra is reverberations. This means that Ved, which is natural law, is not in the books of Veda, but it is in our own Atma, our own self. Therefore, it is only by bringing our awareness to this transcendental level of consciousness can we know Ved and enliven Ved, the unified field of natural law, in our life. And so in the mid-1980s, Maharshi began to train a whole new generation of Vedic Pandits in the practice of yoga, transcendental meditation, and yogic flying of Patanjali, which establishes the Pandit's awareness in transcendental consciousness, where the Ved and Vedic Devata are eternally lively. And he said that when the Vedic Pandits experience Atma within themselves in the state of Samadhi or Yoga, then they are directly enlivening Ved, natural law, in their awareness. And as we heard earlier from Dr. Travis, the state of yoga described by Patanjali, which is easily achieved in transcendental meditation by the Pandits we see pictured here, can be measured by brainwave coherence. And this greater coherence or unity of functioning of the brain, which we see in the EEG graph on the right of the Pandits, it is most pronounced during the practice of the Yogic Flying Sutra of Patanjali that Maharshi revived in his TM City program. Now, what is most interesting is what Patanjali states here. Ahimsa pratishtayam tatsanidau vairatyagaha. In the vicinity of yoga, hostile tendencies are eliminated. And as we heard from Dr. Dilbeck, scientific research has demonstrated that when large enough groups practice yogic flying together, the state of yoga or unity spreads throughout society, influencing the consciousness of everyone. And the result is, as Patanjali states here, the elimination of hostility and violence in the whole environment. And this phenomenon is possible because, as Dr. Hagelin informed us, science has discovered that consciousness is a field. And in the same way that radio waves can reach everyone through the electromagnetic field, the experience of unity and peace gained by the pundits through transcendental meditation and yogic flying spreads throughout the entire field of consciousness, influencing everyone in the world, as illustrated in this simple graphic. This means that when the Vedic Pandits are enlivening the unified field of natural law in their awareness during the practice of yoga, the Ved automatically gets enlivened in the consciousness of the whole population, and people everywhere spontaneously begin to act in harmony with natural law. And this is why, throughout his life, Maharshi worked tirelessly to create these groups in the world. And he said, this is the secret formula to create Vedic India, Vedic world, heaven on earth. It means that governments will not have to be required to try to enforce law-abiding behavior in the people, but it will automatically happen from the enormous power of sattva and unity generated by the practice of yoga by the Vedic Pandits. And as we heard, all this research has verified 50 projects, 23 published studies have shown that the groups reduce negative and violent trends in society just through their practice of yoga, including drops in crime rates, accident rates, acts of terrorism, conflicts and war, as well as increasing positive political and economic trends. Now, in addition to this, Maharshi said that when the Vedic Pandits perform yajna, or Vedic recitation, from the level of yoga, or unified consciousness, it creates an even more powerful influence of peace through society. And this is because, as we heard from Maharaja, and as Maharshi explains here, Vedic sounds, Vedic mantras, are the reverberations of natural law, the fundamental frequencies of nature that create and maintain the orderly growth and harmony of everything in creation. This means that when the Vedic Pandits perform yajna from the state of yoga, they are enlivening the Ved and Vedic Devata throughout the whole consciousness of the world. It cannot be overemphasized how critical this is, because without the Pandit establishing his awareness in the state of yoga, then the performance of yajna will not be effective and powerful and will not produce the desired result. We'll be hearing in the next session from Dr. Hagelin how physics now explains why it is possible that Vedic chanting by large groups of pundits can produce this effect in the whole population. But science has now verified that this is the effect they can produce. And so in the early 1980s, Maharshi began to train a whole new generation of Vedic Pandits in this daily group performance of yoga and yajna. And from 1987 to 1990, he assembled over 7,000 Vedic Pandits near New Delhi, where for 3 years continuously they were engaged in daily group practice of yogic flying, along with performing the Ati Rudrabhishek Mahayagya for world peace 3 times daily. And it was during this period that the world experienced one of the most dramatic transformations in history that no one thought we would see ever in our lifetime. This headline in the LA Times was just one of thousands of articles all over the world that declared peace is breaking out all over the world. And we witness the end of the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, cessation of conflicts worldwide, and freedom for hundreds of millions of people in Europe and around the world. This was the effect of 7,000 yogic flying Vedic Pandits, the rise of peace in the world. Unfortunately, we were unable to continue to maintain this group due to lack of funding. But if we can maintain such a group again, we can expect similar effects in the world. But what emerged from this experiment and other scientific research was that today, with even as little as the square root of 1% of the world's population, which is approximately about 9,000 today, Vedic Pandits in one place, we can create a powerful effect of peace and harmony in the world. And so beginning in 2000, Maharshi began construction of a campus which we see in this photo at the Geographic Center of India, Brahmastan of India, to permanently house 9,000 Vedic Pandits and ultimately double this number to 18,000 as a safety factor. Currently, there are nearly 2,000 Pandits there that we see in this photo, performing yogic flying and one Ati Rudrabhishek Yagya every day. All that is needed is more funding to complete the campus and employ 7,000 more Pandits. And with this one group of 9,000 Pandits at the Brahmastan, we can create peace, harmony, and progress in the life of India and the world. But Maharshi said to fully re-establish Vedic Vishwa Prashasan for India and in all nations of the world, because Vedic administration should just not be applied in India, it has to be applied in every country. So he laid out a very detailed plan that will require nearly 300,000 Vedic Pandits. This plan calls for, as we said, first establishing the two groups of 9,000 Vedic Pandits at the Brahmastan. The daily routine of these Pandits is group practice of yogic flying twice a day and performance of the Ati Rudrabhishek Mahayagya 3 times a day. In addition, they will perform Anushthan and recitation of all 40 aspects of Ved and Vedic literature. But what Maharshi emphasized is it is vital that Ati Rudrabhishek be performed 3 times a day. Now, in addition to this group in the center of India, Maharshi recommended that 4 additional groups of 9,000 Vedic Pandits be stationed in the north, south, east, and west of India. And he said that these 5 groups would create a Rastriya Kavach, invincible armor of unity and harmony for India and Indian national consciousness that would protect it from any destructive influence arising from inside or outside its borders. But secondly, Maharshi's plan calls for groups of 1,500 Vedic Pandits each in 48 locations throughout India that he called Brahmanand Saraswati Nagars in honor of Gurudev. Each of these locations would be associated with one of the 12 jyothirlings, and each jyothirling would have associated with it 4 Brahmanand Saraswati Nagars, and each of these would be associated with 4 countries in the world. So 1,500 Vedic Pandits in each location would be responsible for performing Ati Rudrabhishek daily for 4 nations, as well as regularly performing Griha Shanti for each nation to avert any danger or misfortune for that nation. And this would be based on the regular reading of the Jyotish Kundali of the country. So we see in this map the location of the 12 jyothirlings and the 48 Brahmanand Saraswati Nagars spread throughout India, And on the side, the 192 countries of the world are listed here connected to a jyothirlinga. Since time immemorial, the jyothirlingas in India have been the lively representation of the infinite transcendental silence that is the very foundation of nature's administration of the universe. Therefore, for Vedic administration of the world, it is absolutely critical, Maharshi said, that the life of every nation on earth is connected to the power of infinite silence seated in these most important centers of Vedic administration in India. And in this way, he said, the life of every nation would be enlivened with the nourishing power of Ved and Vedic Devata generated by these groups of pundits from India to protect every nation from any misfortune. In this detail of the chart, we can see how each jyothirlinga is associated with 4 Brahmanand Saraswati Nagars, and each of these is responsible for 4 countries. So, for example, we see here at Mahakaleshwar has 4 locations associated with it: Ujjain, Bhopal, Jabalpur, and Raipur. And each of these have 4 countries assigned to them. So, for example, Ujjain has Canada, my home country, and also Cuba, Haiti, and Dominican Republic. The Bhopal Brahmanand Saraswati Nagar has Brazil, Suriname, Guyana, and Panama. And the Raipur Brahmanand Saraswati Nagar has Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. So in this way, all the 192 countries of the world are connected to the jyothirlingas, the 12 jyothirlingas, with 1,500 Vedic Pandits performing Ati Rudrabhishek and Grihashanti for these nations. So these large groups of Maharshi Pandits would be located in the Brahmastan, 4 corners of India, 12 jyothirlingas, and 36 other locations. And in addition, Maharshi recommended that in each of the 676 districts of India, smaller groups of 150 Pandits be established performing yoga and yajna daily for the welfare of the people. Finally, Maharshi's master plan for Vedic Vishwa Prashasan calls for the revitalizing and strengthening of the other important traditional Vedic centers in the country, including establishing a group of 150 Pandits each at the 52 Shakti Peeths, 21 Vishnu Peeths, the Ashtavinayaks, the 4 main Surya Mandirs, and daily performance of very special yajnas. Maharshi said, the Adbhuta Shanti Soma Yajna by 750 Pandits, and especially daily performance of Laksh Chandi at Vindhyachal by 50,000 Vedic Pandits. This, Maharshi explained, would ensure that the full power of Daivi Shakti is fully lively in Indian national consciousness and world consciousness. So altogether, this plan would comprise nearly 300,000 Vedic Pandits. Already, Maharshi has trained over 50,000 Vedic Pandits and has developed a complete curriculum whereby tens of thousands more can easily be trained. It is just a matter of providing the resources for their training and the hiring of the Pandits and for building their accommodations. This should be the responsibility of the government of India, and we have to find a way to realize it. If we can realize it, it will create absolute peace and heaven on earth for all mankind. And I want to emphasize that the Pandits in these groups will not interact with society. They won't be even teaching Veda, but they will be quietly engaged in the scientific application of the technology of the unified field of natural law through their yoga and yajna. And we have to give great thanks to the Vedic Pandits in every generation who have been performing yajna and upholding this tradition. We bow down to them for maintaining this tradition. But as Maharshi explained, it has simply not been enough to have a profound effect to transform life on earth. What is required, he said, is that yoga and yajna are performed every day in large groups of tens of thousands of pundits, and that the yajna must be performed from the transcendental para level of speech for it to be fully effective. With 300,000 Maharshi Vedic Pandits throughout the country, India will rise to be the lighthouse of peace on earth, and Ram Raj will be re-established throughout the world. All negative and destructive tendencies will simply not arise in the world, and suffering will belong to no one. This, Maharshi said, is the only way to re-establish Vedic India, and the only way for the government of India and every nation on earth to ensure peace, progress, and prosperity for all. To conclude, I would like to just end with a few words directly from Maharshi himself, and then a short video clip of the Maharshi Vedic Pandits at the Brahmastan of India performing the Ati Rudrabhishek, which after about 15-20 years was restarted 2 years ago in the Brahmastan under the guidance and in the presence of Shankaracharya ji. So let's hear Maharshi and then the Vedic Pandits in the Brahmastan. Jai Gurudev.
So we are trying to create a group of Vedic Pandits who will perform yogic flying and Vedic yajnas, and the effect will be harmony and integration in the whole world consciousness. So it's a very great encouraging news that we want to give to the people. You know, throughout the ages, there have been some wars here and there, and it doesn't matter. We will try to establish this group of creating harmony, integration in world consciousness. And as soon as we have this group, the world will be free from negative trends and negative thoughts and negative actions. So it's a very good news.
Jai Gurudev.